Nation on the Stables Network. We've got a lot of things to cover tonight. We're going to be talking football. We're going to talk about bicycle racing. And hopefully, we're going to have all three of us doing it. But from what I understand, only two of us are currently with us. I'm John Guy.
And I'm Eli Racevich with Gracie the Wiener Dog.
And we have no idea where Peggy might be.
She's tending to the Jello again, John.
She's, good Lord, those retirees, bless their hearts, down in Florida, it just never gets old.
You know, I should get Peggy up here to Indy because I put Jello in my lunch almost every day at work.
Really?
Yes, sir. I love Jello.
Well, it is the retirees' food. There is no doubt about it. That and tapioca pudding. Let's start off by talking about the Colts. The Colts released their preseason schedule today, and they're going to be starting up August 13th versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And the GM has decided that he wants the starters to play in the first three games.
Well, you know, with no camp, I think that's almost got to be a necessity.
Yeah.
At least some of them. And, you know, you got a new quarterback who's probably only going to be here a year. So you got to get him up to speed. I think there's a lot of things going to be really different throughout the NFL this year.
Absolutely. Indianapolis will open on a Thursday night and then wait 11 days before playing the Redskins on Monday Night Football. And then 5 days later, 5 days, then they play the Bills. Now, for anyone that's ever followed or played football, 5 days in between two games in the NFL, that's brutal, Eli.
Oh, John, I tell you, when I played semi-pro ball, Sunday morning I was sore when I rolled out of bed, but I was functional. But I got that Monday morning was the absolute worst. And I didn't feel good till, you know, sometime Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, you know, I don't have to travel across the country on a plane like these guys do. I know the Packers have another tough stretch. They've got to go across the country, literally from coast to coast on 4 days.
Well,
they play on a Sunday on, I think, the East Coast, and they play a game on, they play San Fran on like a Thursday night or something like that. So it's real for these guys. I mean, unfortunately, television rules the NFL.
yes.
And,
absolutely.
you know, I've never met a player or read about a player in the NFL who's excited about a Thursday night game. I mean, have you?
No.
They all hate them.
Yeah.
Football stinks.
It's interesting. But at least, you know, we're starting to get back to a sense of normality, normalcy. You know, the NFL is at least making moves. Major League Baseball, same way. You know, we're trying to, I think America is sick and tired of this pandemic. And darn it, we want our sports back. Now, we have a guest tonight, speaking of sports. Jeff Parmalee.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
And
Jeff.
Hey,
Hey, Eli.
welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. When I think about bicycle racing, and I think of three things. I think of Tour de France. I think of the state of Iowa because, oh my God, Iowa just shuts down when they have their bicycle race around the state.
The Ragby ride.
It is, I mean, it's major in the state of Iowa. And the third thing I think of is actually having gone to the velodrome there in Indianapolis and watching races for all of those people out there who pride themselves in at least trying to convince themselves that they didn't need to remember high school physics. You do bicycle racing there in Indianapolis, and it's all about physics. It's like racing inside of a snow cone. Now,
Very well. I like what you said there because that's exactly what it is. You
it
never know what you're going to
is.
get.
And everybody goes real slow until they go down the cone. It's it's very interesting. How
Well,
many
it's one of my
times?
favorite.
Yeah, how many times do you race there, Jeff?
I've raced at the velodrome when I was very young, and that is not my that's not my race. I've ridden on the track. It's a very interesting race. I really don't understand a lot of how track racing goes. You race for one lap, and then the next person has to win the next. I don't know how it goes, but I have raced at the actual velodrome and during cyclocross season, which starts October, September, and it goes all the way through the end of the year. Which you can get all 4 seasons in your season of racing. And I've ridden in 85, 90-degree weather, and I've raced with 5, 6 inches of snow on the ground. So
Wow.
they've got a great facility there at the velodrome, and they intertwine the cyclocross racing through the middle of the infield at the velodrome. And then they've built some stairs on the northwest corner where we run up, and then you have to ride your bike up a steep hill, and sometimes you have to carry it. So, that actual facility has been I love it. I work with some kids in a small, it's called Midwest Devo, and it's a developmental league, and that's where we have our headquarters there. We meet every Thursday night when we're not in pandemic mode, and we teach these kids bike handling skills and teach them. We've had some really amazing kids come out of the program. They've gone on to bigger and better things. One is she's a world champion track racer, and she's also on the Olympic team. I think they took gold, but Chloe Dygert's her name, and she came out of the Midwest Evo program. But it's there's quite a range of skill levels, from kids to from recreational riders to kids from all ages.
Hey,
Well,
Jeff.
go ahead.
Jeff, I know you've done pretty well nationally in a couple of races. What kind of racing do you do? I know I've seen you do a lot of mudding.
Yeah, that's so I do my 2 main racing types. My disciplines are cyclocross and mountain biking. I have been to 5 national championships. I never do very well in them because I'm fat and old, but I love to compete, and that's a big part of it. And one of the big things I love is mountain biking. And I've done this race called the Leadville 100. It takes place out in Leadville, Colorado, which is the highest city in America. and it's a 100-mile race, and you do it all in one day. And
Oh, cow.
it really is it takes a lot. You start at 10,000 feet, and you climb up to 13,000 feet. And during the race, you climb a total of 12,500 feet. And it's really, you got to really work hard to get yourself in shape to do that race. And unfortunately, this would have been my third year to do it this year. It's been canceled. So we're going to have to do it again next year in 21. So that's, I love racing, love getting dirty. That's one thing about cyclocross racing. And, if you don't know what cyclocross racing is, it's pretty much it's a road bike with mud tires on it, big chunky brakes, and you do a lot of running. You do a lot of off-camber riding. You do a lot of uphill riding. There's obstacles on the course that you have to jump over. There's barriers. You can either ride the barriers, which I can't because, I'm 50. So I get out and run over them. But, I've tried to jump them, landed on my head. But, part of doing it. But love it. Cyclocross racing, like I said, it's kind of a hybrid between road racing and mountain bike racing. Your tires are about 33 millimeters. Or is that right? I can't remember. 33s. Like my mountain bikes are, they're a lot bigger than that. But it's a great race. It's a lot of fun. The interaction with the fans is what I love, because when you're cyclocross racing, the fans line the course, and they usually heckle you. If you're like in the last part, if you've got 50 people in your race and you're like somewhere 25 to 50, they give you beer hand ups, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I just can't. I'm trying to picture beer on a bicycle. Jeff.
Yeah, well, a lot of times you take it and then you get around the corner and you dump it. But if you're really sucking, you might as well just have some beer, get some beer on board.
How much does a bike cost to participate at a national level like that?
So usually USA Cycling has a pretty good program. That's who runs all the national championships. And to get the bike out there, like this year it was in Tacoma, Washington, and I flew out there with a friend of mine who is he's a lot younger than me, and he's a lot better rider. But we always go to all these races. It's like the entry for a national race is about $80. And then once you're there, it's a really cool atmosphere. The people there are there for racing, and there's usually a whole week of racing. They do all the age groups, and then they do all the categories. There's category 1 through 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst, or not the worst, but the older, more recreational type riders. And then there's the pro categories too. So they'll have some pro riders there that race at the national level. So, to get in a race like that, it's like $80, $85. And then, you fly out to Washington, you fly your bikes out there. And I say bikes because usually on cyclocross, you have your main bike, and then you have a pit bike, and your pit bike is usually there for, halfway through the race, you'll change bikes because of the conditions. Because nationals this year were December 15th. And the weather was probably like 39 degrees and raining. Of course, we're in Tacoma, Washington.
That's awful.
And it was very muddy. So, halfway through the race, you just change out to your pit bike and you grab that. You usually have somebody in the pit with a power washer that washes that bike off just in case you have a mechanical on it. So it's a great, I love cyclocross. It's probably it's a lot of fun. I have fun. It's not fun when you're doing it, but once you're, in the atmosphere, it's awesome.
How many times a year do you race, Jeff?
So the season, like I said, starts in September, October. And usually there's a race every weekend. And so I'll do anywhere from 12 to 15 races between, say, September and December. And they're usually on Saturdays. Sometimes there's an Indiana series and there's an Ohio series. A lot of times the Ohio Series will be on Sunday mornings and the Indiana Series will be on Saturday mornings. So you'll do a double on the weekend.
Holy
The Indiana Series, the Indiana Series is all local races here, and then the Ohio Series, the Ohio Valley Series, is anywhere Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. So, you might travel. I think the furthest I traveled was 2.5 hours over to Dayton, down to Louisville, things like that. So it's not bad. And those races are they're relatively inexpensive. I think they're $25-$35 for an entry fee. And then if you finish in the top 3, you get your money back, which to date, I've never got my money back. So that tells you what kind of racer I am.
Don't sell yourself short. I know you've placed in some races.
Well, luckily last year I was able to finish second in my division points wise. So I was happy about that. I hired a coach last year and he got me in good riding shape, and it really helps. So this year I'm going to try to do better.
What's the longest distance you've ever raced, Jeff?
162 miles, and it's really I say it's 162 miles. I did the ride across Indiana. It's very similar to the Iowa ride, but it's in one day. And it's called the rain ride. It's not really a race, it's a ride, but there are it's a competitive pack riding. And I think that took me 162 miles. I think it took me like 8.5 hours. So I was trucking that day. We had a nice little tailwind from the west. So we went from Terre Haute all the way over to Richmond. And you're just riding on the road, and you're usually riding in a large pack of bikes, anywhere from 19 to 25 miles an hour. You sustain that
that's pretty good on a mountain bike.
Oh, now the rain ride is a road race. So it's a road bike.
So you're not riding a big tank.
No, not riding the big tank.
Hey, John, Jeff will shortchange himself, so I'll brag on him.
Okay.
He's also Bike One. He's in charge of the bicycles for IMPD, and he's a certified police mountain bike trainer.
Okay.
And he got me through the
true.
school. I went through the school at 300 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Jeff, there at the velodrome where you've got the motocross course and the dirt hills.
Yeah.
Everyone else was doing it. So I decided at 290 something pounds that I was going to do it. Well, when first hill was great. Second hill, the bicycle collapsed. Second jump.
Now I'll tell you, I'll give you a little insight on Eli. When I was over on the northwest side of town, I was working over there. Eli loved to ride his bike, and he was one of my best. He was awesome. He would get on that bike. He'd ride through, do some police work on the bike, and he might be a big guy, but he's very agile. He's still got the moves.
Yeah. Now I've got new knees. Hopefully, I'll be able to get on this spring.
That's right. You absolutely will.
Yeah. So, how many bikes do you actually own, Jeff?
Wife's not listening, is she?
Where's my wife? I just bought one 2 days ago, but I have about 12 bikes, and it ranges from I have about 3 mountain bikes. I have a hardtail, which is one with no suspension in the back, and then I have a full suspension, which is my race bike, which I've raced the Leadville on twice. That's full suspension bike, and it's all carbon. It's about 21 pounds. It's my favorite bike. And then I have 2 cyclocross bikes. I've got 3 cyclocross bikes. One's on a trainer, and then I've got road bikes, and I've got some cruiser bikes. I have 2 unicycles. I have a short one and a 6-footer. So I got a few bikes in the garage.
Okay, I got to jump in. How good are you on a unicycle?
Well, I can still ride my 6-footer. I got that when I was about 12 years old. It's
Okay.
called the Schwinn Draft, and my parents surprised me for Christmas when I was 12, and I taught myself how to ride it, and I can ride it. I can still ride it today.
Wow.
My kids laugh at me when I get it out and ride it in the driveway.
What's the most unique bike you've ever ridden on?
There was I was in Leadville one year, and this guy had a custom built. I think it had 36-inch wheels on it, which are
Oh.
ginormous. And he let me ride it down the main street of Leadville, and it's an odd bike. It's just a weird size. The wheels were huge. I think that's the most unique bike I've ever ridden. For my bikes, I've got some really cool bikes, like the one I just bought. Let me brag on that one a little bit. It's got electronic shifting. So, my road bike has electronic shifting, but my new mountain bike has electronic shifting, and it's got giant wheels on it. And it's really a really light bike. It's 19 pounds. It's full suspension. It's all carbon, and it shifts. It has no wires whatsoever on it. It's pretty unique bike too. It's a kind of a new bike design where the rear shock is in the top tube, so it really disappears. You don't see the rear shock. So it's a kind of a neat hybrid, not a hybrid bike, but it's kind of a new style of bike and a new style of shocks on the bike.
You've seen those bicycles that have the little tiny wheel and the humongous wheel.
Yes.
You ever ridden one of those? I don't even know how people get on those.
Oh, like the old 1890s bikes, John?
Yes. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I've never ridden one, but I'd love to. I'd love to ride one.
Well,
How-
Jeff,
I'd be impressed. Yeah.
have you now being in my 60s, I probably had the coolest style bicycle ever. I had a Stingray with a sissy bar and an extended fork like Easy Rider with ape hangers.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
baby. It was gold.
To have that back.
Wow. So what are your feelings about Lance Armstrong?
Well, I always liked Lance Armstrong, and here are my feelings. I love to watch that race. The Tour de France is really the pinnacle of bike racing,
It is.
and to see what those guys do. So, like to see what I have to do on my weekly workouts and have to sustain like 280 watts for 2 minutes, and I'm like dying. I have to go over 300 watts, and these guys can do that. They can do 400 watts for 2 hours going straight uphill. That's awesome. And you
make
know
it
what?
look effortless.
Yeah.
They do. And in order to do that, there's got to be something that they're being helped by. And I don't think it was just Lance Armstrong. I think he was the biggest, boldest, the loudest, and he talked a lot of stuff. And, that brought a lot of attention to him. But I think everybody in that sport does it in some form or fashion. And,
Kind of like women's
Lance,
Olympics in the 70s.
yeah, exactly. How do the Eastern Bloc guys have, gals have mustaches?
Well, they're Eastern Bloc.
So, I think I do think he doped. I mean, he did, but I think the whole bike racing community, from the Tour de France angle, I think all of those guys do something to enhance their performance, because that's hard to sustain that effort for, say, 120 miles for 21 days straight. And you're getting up every morning and getting on that bike and doing the exact same thing. And your body, it just wreaks havoc on the body. And they have to have something that sustains their body. And that the recovery and all that stuff. And so, I love Lance Armstrong. I had all the Live Strong stuff, and I thought he was awesome. He did overcome a great deal.
He
He
did.
did date Cheryl. He did date Sheryl Crow, which I don't like her music, so that's a negative on him. But
she's cute.
she is cute, yeah. But I think for the most part, Lance was his own worst enemy. If he would have said, "Yeah, I doped," and everybody else did too, so I was the better doper. If I won 8 Tour de France's, and get over it. You didn't, So a lot of that stuff, they found out after the fact. I think he was the better doper. He knew how to get away with it. He knew how to skirt the rules. He knew how to do all that stuff, and that's not right. But I think that sport, that's its Achilles heel, is the doping.
Well, you were talking about the effect on the body of doing all this. How does it affect the body? How's that?
I've done several 100-mile race. I did the 162-mile race, and I've done Leadville, which Lance Armstrong won twice. And Leadville is, I'll just give you some examples from that. You're starting, I live at 900 feet altitude. That race starts at 10,200 feet. And the effects that the altitude has on your body, and they're doing the same thing in the Alps over the Tour de France. They're climbing Alpe d'Huez, and I think that's a 12,000 foot climb, and their bodies just go through hell. I mean, I did one day. It took me 11 hours and 23 minutes to finish the 100 miles of Leadville, and my body at the end of that, I was wrecked. I felt, I had a fever. I was shaking. Just the altitude, the stress, and what I'd eaten supplements all day. My diet was, I probably took in 10,000 calories over the 11 hours.
Eli does that regularly too. He just doesn't bite.
He does. I witnessed it.
Hey, we've got Lou on from New Jersey. Hey, Lou.
Hey, Lou.
Good. Thanks. Okay.
Lou, do you have a bike?
Well, if you count a stationary bike, I mean, I don't, have the bikes that, go 100 miles an hour outside. I use a stationary bike to work out.
Yeah, what kind of speeds are we talking, Jeff?
Yeah.
My top speed, I was coming down this place, it's Columbine, it's the climb at Leadville. I was going 58 miles an hour on like a fire road on a mountain bike.
That's
coming downhill.
Scary.
Yeah, it was scary.
And
that's the fastest I've been.
I ride a mountain bike when I'm able to ride, and 58 miles an hour on that would scare the snot out of me, and I don't get scared.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not. You really have to have hyper focus when you're doing that, and you're coming down the side of that mountain, because one false move and you're pretty much toast. But yeah, 58 miles an hour is my top speed on a mountain bike coming down a mountain on an actual mountain bike trail.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of injuries have you had go through? Jeff?
Knock on wood, I have been super lucky. I raced in a race in Wisconsin. It was at the Trek factory. It's called Trek Cup, and I was involved in a huge pileup at the beginning of this race. It was a cyclocross race, which they're all mass starts, and we had probably 100 people in our field, and I was right in the middle of the pack, and I went down. I think I caused the whole accident, and I got I think 9 stitches in my elbow. I was able to finish the race, but my bike looked like I had run over a deer.
Oh dear.
But that's really the that's the worst thing that's happened to me. Just stitches. I've had some bruises, and I've taken some tumbles, but luckily I've kept the rubber side down.
So you Kevin Cogan that race, huh?
Yes, I.
Well, I've only got hurt riding at work once, Eagle Creek Park. And I was doing the trails. We were looking for the flashers. And my problem was I went too slow on one, and my wheel went in a rut and locked. And of course, there was a tree stump there. And I think Brad Bentley was with me. I knocked myself out, hit my head, fortunately, knocked myself out for a couple seconds. And I've taken some good tumbles, but thank God I had a helmet on that day.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah.
That explains a lot, though.
Yeah. Hey, I was reading about Antonio Morris, from the Colts, old middle linebacker, and Packers for a year, and all the legal troubles he's having now, and they're blaming it on concussions. I'm like, God, I feel so fortunate to play football in the era I did with, and I think I've told you, Jeff, the story I remember in high school. Come over the sideline. They're like, they gave me a concussion test, and they held up, how many fingers do I have, Eli? And I said,
2.
Well, they were holding up 3, but I'll still remember the trainer going, he's all right.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have Marion Barber III drop in and spend a day or two at my home here in Arizona, and it's so sad to see NFL guys who've had multiple concussions.
Yeah.
And I mean, Marion's had 5. He only admits to 2 because in the NFL, that third one is the killer.
Yeah, it's the third strike.
Yeah.
Third strike. So between the Cowboys and the Bears, they hushed up 3 of the 5. And
I joke a lot about my stroke, John, but when they were doing all the brain scans and stuff on it, I still have an injury, probably it's close to 3 inches wide above my left ear. And they said, they're confident I got it playing football back when I was young. And they said it probably contributed to my stroke.
That
Yeah.
probably does.
Yeah.
You often wonder, like Marion, did he get some concussions when he played up at Minnesota? How many concussions did he have prior to going into the NFL?
That's right.
So
that's right. And I chum around with Marion, and it's kind of like being with having a 14-year-old sidekick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I mean, he can lift a 400-pound freezer and put it over the fence for me, but the brain has been scrambled.
Hey, he's not listening, is he, John? Because I got to be my usual smart aleck self.
Well, if he
That's
is,
my job.
He's in Frisco, Texas.
Okay. Well, I when you were describing it, I was thinking of Mice and Men.
Frisco.
Poor Marion has to be Lenny.
I have a cousin out there.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the Barber clan is currently hunkered down, I think. But nice guy. I mean, very, very Christian. But again, I don't think you would want him to do surgery on you, or
John, didn't you tell me he was trying to come back and play football somewhere?
No, he was thinking about it.
Okay.
He's training to be the next heavyweight world champion. Seriously.
Honestly, and having been down the concussion road, and I boxed when I was young, I can tell you that's a bad idea. And tell, we've only talked, he and I have only talked on the show, but telling from an old guy, it's a bad idea.
Well, we ought to have the big wick back on and have him talk to him. Because Mark Wycliffe played football, and he played it damn well. And he also boxed. But I don't know.
I will tell you that one good punch in the side of the head in a boxing match is probably like getting your bell rung 10 to 12 times in football. You can't even compare the two.
Right. And he was going nuts during this pandemic lockdown because the gyms were closed. And so we would be getting phone calls almost every day about where can I go and work out. He comes up to Arizona, and of course our gyms are closed too. Now they're not. So I guess he's a gym rat now. But again, nice guy. But the blows to the head have taken their toll. No doubt about it.
Yeah, that's sad.
It is. It is.
And boxing is not going to help that out.
He's a world-class athlete. Jeff could get him hooked up in bicycle racing. He's got the muscle twitch for it.
He does. And he's got the calves, which is, I am assuming, Jeff, that's the number one thing.
Calves and your thighs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's big boy. He was a big running back.
He probably he could probably crank out some wattage.
Yeah, he probably could.
Wattage?
Explain that to Lou, if you would, Jeff.
Okay, so on my bikes, I have what's called a watt meter, and a watt meter is what you can produce. So I have to take like a test, a 20-minute test, and what is my wattage that I can sustain for 20 minutes, and that gives you what's called a functional threshold, FTP.
Right.
And so, like my FTP is 281, so I can crank out 281 watts for 20 minutes, and that's max effort.
I get it.
So yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like these Tour de France guys can crank out 400 watts for they can sustain a 20-mile climb, 400 watts for 2 hours, and that's just nuts. And like professional athletes, like Reggie Miller is a huge mountain biker. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Oh my God!
No, I didn't. But I can't stand Reggie Miller.
Wow.
But yeah, he's a huge mountain biker. His bike's like, I don't know, it's like I ride a 54. He probably rides like a 72 or something. I don't know.
Good
it's
Lord.
Huge. It's a big bike. It's probably not a 72. I don't think they make that big of a bike, but it's a ginormous bike. And he's an athlete. He's got some strong legs, and he's a really good bicyclist.
I never knew that.
I didn't know it either.
There was a guy that did Leadville, and I'll try to think of his name. He's a pro football player. He's done it a couple times. I'll think of his name here.
I'm guessing it's not a defensive lineman.
No.
Well, do you remember Bob Lertzema, Eli?
Yes. Vikings?
No. He played slow pitch softball professionally. He owned his own team, by the way, up in Minneapolis.
Huh.
But the best story I've heard in the last week is my business partner, Tiny, from Decatur, Indiana. And Tiny's telling me this story about when he grew up as a young boy in the Decatur, Indiana area. His best friend and next door neighbor was a guy named Keith Smart. And Tiny and his friend were out doing something together, and someone came up and asked Keith for his autograph.
Yeah.
Tiny looks at him and goes, "Wait a minute, what are you famous for?"
The shot.
The shot.
Oh yeah.
Tiny
Yeah.
had never heard of the shot.
I
What?
think I have.
What? Yes.
Wait a second. Tiny,
Yeah.
Tiny's from Indiana. How can you not know of the shot?
Well, he
I know
ended
the
up
shot.
moving to Arizona and then Montana. And I guess he missed the shot. And so I guess Keith took him home with him, and they cranked it up on the TV, and he showed him why the guy wanted his autograph. And Tiny was completely oblivious
I'll be darned.
to the fact
Wow.
that his next door neighbor and good friend hit the shot. I told him, I said, you live in Indiana now, Tiny. For the love of God, you've got to start knowing basketball.
That's almost as bad as saying, "What's Highland?"
What's Highland?
Yeah, if you can't be from Indiana if you don't know what Highland is and you don't know what the shot is.
Okay.
Plum slash shot.
The shot.
The shot.
But,
Hey, Jason Sehorn is the guy that did Leadville. He's a
Okay,
big bike
yeah,
guy.
good
wow.
ball
So,
player.
yeah, awesome football player. That name just popped in my head there. Jason Sehorn. But yeah, I mean, I digress.
What position Eli is Jason?
He was I think he was a
Cornerback.
Yeah, he was a quarterback. Didn't he play for the Giants for a while, Lou?
He Giants and the Rams.
Okay. Wow. I'm still blown away that Reggie Miller is mountain
you had
biking.
to Google Reggie Miller, and there's mountain biking, and they'll pop some pictures up of him on the bike, and it just looks unnatural. But he loves it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. Everyone has a mindset that goes into sports.
Pretty much.
There are guys who, play football, for example, but would not ever be caught dead on a baseball diamond. And the vice versa.
Yep.
What kind of mindset do you have to have? Because we all grew up with a Schwinn bike. I mean, we all grew up with a bicycle, for God's sakes.
Absolutely.
What kind of mindset are we talking about when you're now 50 years old and you're still doing the bicycle?
Well, Jeff still plays hockey, John.
No way.
What are you, another Gordie Howe?
I wish.
Where do you
play
play
hockey
Where do you play
2 nights a
hockey
week. We play up in Fishers, this little town just north of Indy here.
Yeah.
And I play Sunday nights. I play in there's an adult league.
No check?
No check. Yeah, no check.
Oh.
What's the point?
And,
No check.
hey,
no.
What's the point is I have to go to work the next day.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I played hockey since I was like 5, and I turned 50 in 5 days.
So did you play junior?
I played in high school, and that's about it. I didn't play anywhere. It was when I was in high school, the hockey was not a very big sport. My dad played semi-pro in Rochester, New York. I played for the Rochester Americans.
Okay.
And
and actually, to be concise, they weren't the Americans; they were the Amerks.
Amerks, you're correct.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So he played minor league, huh?
He did.
Back in
and so he got back in the 50s. I was born in the 70, and so probably in the 50s, 60s.
Same age as you.
Right before the Hansons.
Yes.
Well, I'll be darned. So you come from a sporting family, Jeff.
I do. My mom, not so much, but my dad, yeah, he was quite the sporty guy. He's a hockey player.
How long did he play hockey?
He played up until I was probably in high school. He would play with us. We'd play pickup over at Ellenberger
Sure.
when Ellenberger had a rink.
Yeah.
And he would play some pickup with us, but he played probably 2 years in the minors, and then he went in the Navy, and the next thing you know, he's got 2 kids and he's living in South Carolina. So, life got in the way there.
He misses it, I bet.
Oh yeah, he does. And he still loves to, like my nephew and my middle son played for a little bit. Then he's really small, so he didn't play. Once they started checking, he started getting obliterated. So he said, time to stop, which is smart.
Yeah.
So, but I played since I was 5 and I still play today. I love it. It's, I've got a good group of guys. We play hockey, then we drink some beers, 1 or 2, maybe 12. And just it's a good thing. I play 2 nights a week, so it's fun.
Does your dad live there in Indiana?
Yeah, he lives in Greenfield. My parents live out in Greenfield.
You tell your father, we'd love to have you and him on our show, and
Okay.
we'll talk nothing but
Hockey.
I love it.
Yeah.
That'd be good for me.
Indianapolis, well, actually, most of Indiana has a very checkered, no pun intended.
I was going to say,
that.
you stole my pun, John.
Yeah, I know.
Stole my pun.
It has a checkered hockey history when we're talking lower level.
Yes. Wayne Gretzky came through here with the Racers.
That's
You
right.
betcha.
Went to Broad Ripple High School.
That's right. Broad Ripple High, Wayne Gretzky. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And but we used to have the Indianapolis Warriors.
Yes.
And
the Racers, the Warriors, the Ice Checkers.
Right. The Chiefs.
Oh yeah, forgot about them.
Now we have the Fuel.
Well, and then actually, supposedly, and I have not been able to track this down, Columbus, Indiana had a semi-pro hockey team.
Really?
I think I recall
Kind
that.
of recently. And I'm a lower level hockey fanatic. In fact, I wrote a book. I'm the only one that's ever done an encyclopedia
Is it
of
available?
lower level hockey.
Interesting.
And so, I mean, your dad probably knows an awful lot of the people.
He probably does.
Because back in the day, you had the Continental Hockey League. Out east,
right?
Out east, you had you had the slap shot leagues, for God's sakes. But every state, it was interesting. Every state has had their very own semi-pro hockey league, except one.
And that is
Hawaii, maybe.
Hawaii.
Yeah. Interesting.
They have not had their own league, but
not surprising.
They've had teams. Now, California, oh my God, and Montana, Evel Knievel actually played a season or 2 of semi-pro hockey up in Montana.
We broke.
Was that with or without the motorcycle?
with
Wow.
He's got
a
those ice.
motorcycle.
He's got those ice tires on there.
Yeah,
That was a joke.
his,
I like it.
his dad was very was big in lower level hockey, so that's why Evil got involved up in Great Falls, Montana.
You know, I'm going to
Great
guess
balls.
back in that era, 60s, John, early 70s, that though until the WHL came along, that minor league hockey players, and not to criticize the guys now, were probably a lot better because you didn't have as many NHL teams.
Right.
You know,
You only
the expansion hadn't diluted the talent.
True.
had 8 major league teams back in the day.
Right.
Was it 8 or 6? Not many.
8.
And so yeah, you had guys, and Indianapolis had some. Ron Handy.
Oh yeah.
Ron Handy
Handy.
played forever in the minor leagues.
So we had Ron Handy. Remember Kelly Harudi played here.
Yep.
You had all the Trottiers, which Rocky and Monty still
Trottier.
played here.
Big name in hockey.
Brian Trottier played for Pittsburgh in the New York Islanders back in the dynasty in the 80s. And the Trottiers still play up at Fishers in the A-League, and good dudes, Rocky and Monty. And then they have a son named Jordy, and I think he played somewhere in the minor leagues, and he was pretty good, but not that good. But yeah, Brian was the ringer of the Trottier family.
Well, Indiana, sadly, does not have a real good minor league. I used to have to get in my car and drive to Danville, Illinois to see a minor league hockey game.
Oh yeah,
The Dashers.
Danville, the Danville Dashers. I think they're the minor league team for Chicago, which the Fuel feeds into.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Packed, small arena, but again, packed every single game. They love their Dashers.
Yep.
And I was involved with a Continental Hockey League team in Billings, Montana. Boy, they played in the same league as Troy, Ohio.
Wow.
You can just sort of imagine the bus ride.
Yeah, that's a
In the
long bus
winter,
ride.
from
So
Billings,
it's New Jersey to
Montana.
Virginia.
I mean, it just horrible. Just they would go and they would pick up a team and mine it.
Wow.
And then both teams would be on the bus and they drop mine it off maybe in Danville. And then they go on and play in Troy. And then they do the same damn thing going back home.
Wow.
That had to be brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I'll bet.
Indiana had minor league hockey, though, up in St. John's. They have a nice arena, I guess, up there.
In St. John's?
St. John's, Indiana.
Okay.
Up by the region.
In the region.
Yeah. And they had hockey, but Muncie used to. Fort Wayne still does, I think.
Yep.
But there was
Fort Wayne Comets.
The Comets were okay. They also had a junior Comet team that played semi-pro. Those were the guys that couldn't make the real live Comets.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'd love to have Jeff, you and your dad on. We could talk hockey all night long.
Excellent. We'll have
I'll
to,
be there
I'll
to
have
see
to
it.
talk to him.
Bring up
see if
some
he,
memories.
Yeah.
Because,
I want in on this.
yeah.
There you go, Lou.
I mean, well, you know, last Monday, Jeff, we had Ray Scott on this show. NBA Coach of the Year back in '74, Played with a young rookie in the ABA by the name of Julius Irving.
Oh,
Number 1 draft choice of the Detroit Pistons. He played in the NBA, the ABA, minor leagues, and then became an NBA coach and then a commentator. And he was a charming, charming guest.
that's
He,
awesome.
I told him in advance, I said, Ray, here's the deal. We're not going to mention the Detroit Pistons once, and we're not going to mention Dr. J at all.
Oh, come on, you gotta mention Dr. J.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope. We were talking Fatty
All right.
Taylor. We were talking we were talking the fact that everyone in the old ABA had nicknames.
Yes.
And so he's just going on about Fatty Taylor, Adrian Smith, the old timers from Philly. He carpooled because he was caught up in the gambling situation there at the collegiate level. So he only played basically 1 year of college ball. And he played 3 years in Allentown, PA, in the minor leagues. And he would carpool with Sonny Hill. And so we were going way back into the 50s, street ball in Philly. And Ray had himself a blast, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time of reminiscing. So
That's incredible.
and we can do the same thing, Jeff, with you and your dad. We'll
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I know my semi-pro and minor league hockey damn well. So
Excellent.
we could keep up the conversation. Not too bad.
All
So,
right.
Lou,
I like it.
What
Yeah.
are they opening up in New Jersey?
Never.
What? Did you happen to see what happened in Wisconsin when they lifted the order?
Oh,
Yes.
And like 10 minutes
Yeah.
later, every bar in the state was jammed.
Copycats.
They take their beer drinking seriously in the Badger State.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What's
Well-
open there in Indiana, Eli?
Well, the state is opening up. Unfortunately, Indianapolis is still on lockdown until June 1. So I assume most of the people do like I did, drove out of the county this weekend and spent their money.
Huh.
Absolutely. That's what I did.
Yeah. Well, so where'd you go, Jeff? Where'd you spend your money at?
I went online and bought a bike. That's where I spent my money.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I know this will be hard for you to believe, John. I went to eat.
No way, Eli. Where'd you go?
Oasis Diner in Plainfield.
And what'd you have?
Tenderloin.
Of course, as
Good
big
choice.
as your head.
No, not as big as my head, but as big as a plate, dinner plate.
And that was what, the Ace Diner?
Oasis,
Oasis Diner in Plainfield.
yeah, it used to be the old school like you see in the movies, 50s diner. When I moved to Indiana in 71, it was on West Washington Street, and it was open for a long time. Then it closed for a few years, and some guy bought the closed down diner. It was totally disassembled, reassembled, refurbished, and they moved it to Plainfield. And I've been a loyal customer ever since they reopened it.
Well,
Right there
you
on
go.
Main Street, right?
Yes, sir.
40. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you should go there and eat. The breakfast is fantastic. But that's my favorite tenderloin in the state.
I'll have to join you there for
Oh, yeah.
for a good tenderloin next time I'm back in the Hoosier State.
And we need to get the Siren of Sarasota up here.
That's right. That's right.
Jeff doesn't know about her.
We've run out of time, guys.
Hey,
On that note, I will say goodnight. Good night, folks.
So much fun. Thanks,
See you next
Luke,
week,
for
Luke.
joining us. Jeff,
I'll be back Wednesday.
Thank you for having me,
All righty.
John. It was
Thank
great,
you,
great to
and
talk to you.
hopefully we'll get to meet your dad in the not too
Absolutely.
distant future, and be safe out there, as they always said on Hill Street Blues.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank
Have a
you.
great evening.
And
Thanks, Eli.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
all right,
See you, bud.
that's gonna wrap up another Monday night. Naptown Nation. We were minus Peggy, but I'm sure, it just slipped her mind. Yeah, right. Anyway, until next Monday, I'm John Guy,
And I'm Eli Racevich with Gracie the Wiener Dog.
and we wish you a very good night. We'll see you on Wednesday for our other show. Until then, be good, stay safe.
See you, John. See you, Brett.